we have to consider our minds and our hearts like a sanctuary. We have to consider our minds and our hearts and guard our minds and our hearts just like we would guard our home, just like we would protect the sanctuary of our homes. We need to protect the sanctuary of our minds and our hearts. And so one thing that so many people fail to do is to guard the doors of the sanctuary of our hearts and our minds. And so whenever we get a negative thought, so I'll talk just briefly, what are some negative thoughts that we might get? For example, something demeaning about ourselves, some negative self-talk. Oh man, you're so useless. You're so ugly. You're so fat. You're a failure. You're never going to get it right. You're never going to be good enough. You aren't good enough. This type of talk, this type of self-talk is absolute poison. It's just like you go to the fridge, you find, or not forget the fridge, you go to some, poison that you have under the sink and you just drink it. It's going to damage you internally. And this is what's happening every time we indulge in this negative self-talk. We are destroying ourselves internally. So the example that I give is that the thoughts that go through our minds are like somebody knocking on our front door, right? So imagine that you get someone knocking on your front door, and then you look through the window or the peephole and you see that there's a man standing there and he's carrying all types of weapons. He's carrying a gun, a machete, a rifle. He has all these weapons in his hand and he's standing there. How many of us are going to open the door to him? And even more so, how many of us are going to invite him in, say, have a seat, stay for dinner. Here's some biryani. I have some on the stove. Here, have some biryani. Oh, you know what? Have some chai. Stay the night. No one's going to do that. And the reason is clearly this man has evil intentions. He's only there to do harm. You would not allow him into your home. This is what happens when we have negative thoughts. Those negative thoughts are like this man standing at the door with all these weapons. Negative thoughts are only there to do harm inside the sanctuary of your mind and your heart. And in the same way that you would not allow this man into your home, we should not be allowing and indulging these negative thoughts into our sanctuary of our mind or the sanctuary of our hearts. Now, what are negative thoughts? I gave one example, which is negative self-talk, cutting yourself down. You make a mistake and you just beat yourself up. Oh, I'm such a failure. I'll never be good enough. Or you're looking into a certain potential opportunity and you say, no, I'm going to fail at it. I'll never be good enough. We just cut ourselves down. We have to stop allowing and indulging these types of thoughts. These are, like a robber who's just trying to get into the house to do harm. And this is our home. Our mind is our home. Our heart is our home. We have to keep it protected. So, long story short, we have to start to manage our thoughts better, to not focus on negative thoughts, to not focus on negativity, but rather to think of our hearts and minds as a sanctuary like we think of our home. We don't allow someone who's going to come and damage the home, someone who's going to come and damage our sanctuary in and then feed and indulge. We should actually keep the door closed. Don't allow that in. Don't entertain it. And instead, replace it with a positive thought. Make dua about that which you're afraid of. Take positive action towards, preventing or making that bad situation worse. But don't just sit and ruminate about it and talk about it and post about it and focus on it, because all that does is paralyze you with fear.